Today, Bitcoin retreats to the $66,000 level just one day after coming within striking distance of $70,000. John Deaton, Senator Elizabeth Warren's challenger in the upcoming election, sits down with us from Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville. And Congressman Wiley Nickel of North Carolina discusses a letter he signed encouraging the DNC to have a forward-looking approach to crypto. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Talia Kaplan. Bitcoin's price retreating this afternoon, a contrast from yesterday morning when the cryptocurrency was trading about $70 away from $70K. Investors were digesting several political developments and looked ahead to central bank meetings happening this week. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin dropped to the $66,000 level. Ether rose slightly, however, maintaining $3,300, and Solana fell more than 3%. Taking a look at Bitcoin, according to equity research from Jefferies out yesterday, the cryptocurrency's future could be tied to the outcome of the U.S. presidential election in November. The research notes that this year's annual Bitcoin conference in Nashville had a political undertone to much of the event, with speeches from Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump, multiple Republican politicians, and a handful of Democrats. The note says that Trump's overtures to the industry to install crypto-friendly regulators may have the effect of near-term BTC price being tied to the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Okay, sticking with politics as we take a look at today's top stories. Senator Debbie Stabenow, the Democratic senator from Michigan who chairs the Senate Agriculture Committee, has reportedly scrubbed plans to push forward crypto regulation. According to Politico, the senator had been pushing for a Wednesday vote on a bill that would lay out the CFTC's jurisdiction over crypto. But that vote has now been put on hold after signs that the top Republican on the Agriculture Committee, Arkansas Republican Senator John Boozman, wasn't convinced to take it on this week. Yesterday, Senator Boozman issued a statement on proposed cryptocurrency legislation, saying he doesn't believe an arbitrary deadline is the way to achieve a proper outcome. He also said he is committed to a bill, quote, we can all proudly support. Now, we reached out to Senator Stabenow's office about the reported delay, but haven't heard back yet. However, she did put out a statement on Monday saying there was still time to pass a bill this year, but it needed a Republican senator to, quote, step up in order to accomplish that goal. Next, Russia approved a law today legalizing the use of crypto for international payments as the country faces ongoing financial pressure from Western sanctions. Of course, the U.S. and its allies have imposed many sanctions on Russian individuals and entities in retaliation to its assault on Ukraine. Local media reported today that the State Duma, which is the lower house of the Russian parliament, gave the initial green light to the new legislation, which would allow businesses to use crypto for cross-border trade. Now, in addition to this development, the Russian central bank will also be given permission to move money overseas using private digital currencies. The Russian central bank governor said that crypto-based payments would begin taking place before the end of the year. Now, the central bank's commitment to use crypto as a method of cross-border payment marks a reversal from the regulator's previous stance on the technology. All right, wrapping up our coverage of Bitcoin 2024 for our main story. Crypto World's Mackenzie Segallo sat down with Republican John Deaton, a former U.S. Marine and cryptocurrency attorney from the Expo Hall in Nashville on Saturday. They spoke shortly after former President Trump addressed the crowd. Now, Deaton announced in February that he is challenging Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren as she runs for her third term in office.
So we just heard from Donald Trump, who's headlining Bitcoin 2024. What did you think of his speech?
Well, listen, you're talking to somebody who's been involved in this industry for a long time. I actually sued Gary Gensler and the Securities Exchange Commission. So when you heard that roar from the crowd when he said he was going to fire Gary Gensler, there's a reason for that. Technically, the president can't fire, but he can select a new chairman, which in a way is firing him. So I've been fighting the government in its war against crypto for several years. So that's something that I obviously favor. Also, I've been someone who's been saying a lot of these politicians, like my opponent, Elizabeth Warren, they want to give this false narrative that crypto is somehow a threat to the US dollar. And President Trump and others are now understanding that you can use stablecoin legislation to actually enhance the US dollar and its dominance in the world. And so those are things that I absolutely favor, and I'm glad to see him and RFK Jr. even talked yesterday. But listen, Bitcoin's come a long way when 2 out of the 3 presidential candidates start talking about having a digital Fort Knox, if you will, and having Bitcoin as a reserve asset.
So let's talk about Senator Warren for a minute.
Yeah.
You're going for her seat. Donald Trump mentioned both of you on stage just now. And the fact that Senator Warren has been what the industry would perceive as hostile to the sector. Now, is that something that you're leaning into as you go to unseat her from the chair that she's in right now? The fact that you're pro-crypto, she's anti-crypto, is that an important part of your campaign?
Well, you know, people ask me, am I pro-crypto? And I say, no, I'm pro-freedom. And here's the thing. I actually have called Elizabeth Warren the crypto candidate because we have illegal immigration in Massachusetts. It's ground zero. We have a debt crisis. We have an opioid crisis. Massachusetts is the highest, most expensive place to live for working families now in America. We have foreign wars going on. So the question is why, with all those real world urgencies and emergencies, would she focus her re-election on crypto and banning crypto? So she's earned her reputation in the crypto world. Her bill actually would ban the self-custody of Bitcoin. And the last time I checked, the United States government shouldn't tell you what you can and cannot own.
So Donald Trump announced the fact that he would sign an executive order in order to hold on to the Bitcoin that has already been seized by U.S. Marshals. And then after that, we heard from Senator Lummis, who said that she was, putting out legislation that would then develop an acquisition strategy, 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years. What do you think of that?
I think it's great because you got to look at it this way. Bitcoin today has sort of evolved into the best way for lay people to think of it as a digital form of gold. And America is the largest holder of gold in the world. We have Fort Knox, right? And so if Bitcoin's digital gold, then why shouldn't the government be the largest holder of Bitcoin? So I think we're just moving into, the future, and gold is being replaced with a cyberspace form of gold. And that's how I think a lot of lay people could look at it and understand it.
What would you do with crypto policy if you win?
Well, the first thing to do is we have to have elected leaders understand the technology. And so I believe right now, what I've been fighting for is smart, tailored regulations. Entrepreneurs and innovators, when you tell them the rules of the road, then they know how to comply. Right now, we have this vague, opaque kind of area in the law where we're trying to apply 1933 law to modern day artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. So the first thing we have to do is Congress has to do its job and enact smart, tailored legislation. And let me tell you, the state I'm running in, Massachusetts, when technology and innovation lead the way, Massachusetts wins because we are the best when it comes to that. We have Harvard, we have MIT, we have Tufts, we have all these great institutions. And so I'm looking forward to going to the Senate as someone who understands this technology and is going to be pro-innovation, because when you're pro-innovation, you're pro-America.
Now, we reached out to Senator Warren's team for comment related to some of Deaton's statements in that interview, but didn't hear back right away. Now, turning to another politician who attended Bitcoin 2024, Congressman Wiley Nickel of North Carolina. He's one of the few Democrats who was at the crypto conference and spoke with Crypto World's Tanea McKeel this morning. Nickel joined more than a dozen House Democrats who signed a letter to the Democratic National Committee encouraging a forward-looking approach to crypto that would include adding pro-digital asset language to the party's platform and selecting an SEC chair that would foster innovation in crypto.
You were one of more than a dozen House Dems that signed a letter to the DNC on Friday urging it to endorse more crypto-friendly policies and actions. Among them, the letter called for the inclusion of pro-digital asset language in its platform and the appointment of a pro-innovation regulator to take the helm at the SEC. So what now?
Well, we've got a whole new reset on the race for president. So this is an exciting time to talk about the future of digital innovation in the U.S. And a fresh new perspective is emerging in the Democratic Party. We've been working really hard to make sure that we keep the future of Web3 as a bipartisan issue. Whether you love crypto or you hate it, it's not going anywhere. So we need to, continue making the case to protect consumers, bolster U.S. competitiveness and certainly to foster innovation here in the U.S. Those are the things that we're working on in Congress right now. We just passed, for the first time ever in our nation's history, a bipartisan bill to regulate crypto. Fit 21 passed with 71 Democrats. That was a big deal for this Congress. We've only done bipartisan things in Congress for must-pass legislation. So this was the first piece of policy that wasn't must-pass that we got done. And I'm proud of the great coalition that we built and continuing to push in Nashville and everywhere else to make the good public policy case for why we need to regulate this technology and keep those jobs here in the U.S.
Also, over the weekend, reports circulating about Kamala Harris's advisors reaching out to members of the crypto community. And of course, some are really hoping that they can take that as a positive signal. And many others are more skeptical. When I talk to people or when I log on to crypto Twitter, I'm seeing a lot of messaging around this idea that actions speak louder than words, and that some in crypto have been burned way too many times by this administration to sort of allow themselves to have that hope and that belief that there could be a sentiment shift coming, from Harris or from the Democrats or from, the current Biden administration. What do you say to that? She's just launched this campaign for president, and what do you think she should do? Or, if it is the position that she's taking, what do you think it is that she should do or say? And what is really the reality of that, given everything that she has going on at the moment?
Well, I drafted this letter to Vice President Harris and the DNC talking about the things that I think she ought to do. We've got 14 House Democrats who joined me, along with some other elected and Democratic leaders across the country. So I think our letter outlines some of the specific stuff. But you're right. We need to show actions certainly speak louder than words. The fact that she's got this meeting coming up with her folks and the industry and other leaders in the space, I think is really important. That's something that as far as I'm aware hasn't really happened under the current administration. But she's running for president in her own right now, and on a lot of these issues we get to take a reset. And my hope is that the good public policy arguments we've laid out will hit home with Vice President Harris, and we can see a new, fresh approach, embracing bipartisanship on this issue, and that's I think for me the future of any issue. If you do it as you turn these things into partisan political footballs, you're going to set the cause back a decade. But if we continue to focus on keeping innovation here in the U.S., making sure those jobs stay here, that we can protect our consumers with good regulation. And again, we're just trying to get regulation for the industry where we've never had anything in our nation's history until this Congress finally put Fit 21 on the floor for a vote. So it's a new area, it's a new space, but it's one that has amazing potential to democratize finance, to turn dictatorships into democracies. And if we embrace this technology and get it right, we're going to be able to help all the folks we represent in a very major way.
Now, Congressman Nickel also discussed what he thinks is next in terms of crypto legislation. You'll be able to check out more of his interview over at cnbc.com/cryptoworld. Okay, that's all for today, but we'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.